Everybody's heard of the Matt Mercer effect, but what about the CRPC effect, the critical role player character effect? Nobody talks about that, but I think it heavily affects how people view critical role and how people compare it to their own game tables, and should you even do that? You guys have been loving my DC breakdowns where I take critical role episodes and break them down. We've done 8 episodes up to this point, and a lot of things that I'm seeing have to do with this effect, and I've literally seen nobody talk about it. All the timestamps will be linked down below. We're going to touch on the Matt Mercer effect, then dive into this big, huge effect that's going on, and I got a hot take at the end. And there's no sponsor this week because this video came out of nowhere. I just wanted to make a video for you guys because you guys have been loving up this series so much. I'm about to leave tomorrow morning to go for the holidays, but I wanted to film this video for you guys. But I got 2 big things that end January 1st. Alcantar's Almanac of All Things hardcover is the last time you can get your hands on that. Everything else, of course, will be available on the website afterwards once it's finished and the digital release is done. But that's a little bits away. We still got some stuff we're working on. And on my Patreon, I got a big special offer going on right now. And if you join during December, you get all 4 volumes that have been released of the DC Playbook. Volume 1 with the full enchanting system, Volume 2 with the lycanthropy system, Volume 3 with the circus faction, and Volume 4 with a super creepy city, all intermixed with bonus level up perks, magic items, monsters, and a whole ton of other stuff to help you DM game prep. But anyway, normally when you become a patron, you get the most recent 2 months right whenever you join, but right now you're getting all 4 of them for a big bundle deal. Happy holidays to everybody. Now let's get into the video. The Matt Mercer effect is basically whenever people compare their dungeon master or dungeon masters compare their own self to Matt Mercer himself. If anything, this is just a really big compliment to Matt Mercer and how awesome he is. And don't get me wrong, he is awesome at what he does. His descriptions are next level. His world building's next level. Everything that kind of starting to weave together in his plot, all these different things. He as a dungeon master has a lot of different traits that are above average. And he as a dungeon master has a lot of things I'm sure that he needs to work on. And I talk about some of those things in some breakdowns, as we all do, as I do, as every dungeon master does, because no one's perfect. And that's actually one of the things I love about being a dungeon master, is that there's always something to improve on. So this Matt Mercer effect, though, is whenever players are like, oh, my dungeon master doesn't like Matt Mercer does. Or I've also seen it where dungeon masters want to do things like Matt Mercer and expect that their players are going to follow through with that, and then they do these certain things and expect these certain things from their players, but then they fall short. So basically the Matt Mercer effect is comparing dungeon masters to Matt Mercer, and there's some differences there. But that's what I also love talking about in these breakdowns, because we're all different. But enough of that, because I think there's actually a bigger effect going on than the Matt Mercer effect, and it's the critical role player character effect. It doesn't sound as cool. It really doesn't sound as cool. But I think the players at the table play a big role in this, of what this critical role effect is. I'll just call it that, because this thing also does affect Matt Mercer, and we will talk about that here in just a second. Session 0, this is where we're starting. They play one-on-one with Matt Mercer, or sometimes in their little groups, and they really get into the mindset of their character. They probably start talking as their character. They start brainstorming, workshopping, because this is one of the big effects I'm going to start leading with right now. They're about to play the game in front of millions of people. And just knowing that is on your plate. Just knowing you are going to sit down at that table, in the studio is amazing in the first place. We could have a studio effect there. But they're going to be playing in front of all these people, so they're going to be investing and putting in a lot more thought than your average character at a normal table. They're going to put more work into that character and more thought and time investment into that character, whether it's the voice of that character. As you're seeing in this episode, almost all of them have some sort of voice that they're going with. And I had this point saved for later, but I'll say it now. They're all professional voice actors. They're all professional. The players are voice actors, and not just voice actors, but actors. Both of those are very, very valuable skills for an entire cast of people. Ashley Johnson's on Blind Spot, this very big show. Robbie Damon's was the voice of Spider-Man, and like all of these people. Liam O'Brien is Illidan Stormrage from World of Warcraft. I played the crap out of that game. But anyway, I could go list off all of the different things that all of these people have been a part of that are all huge. The entire cast. So not only do they have great voices and can be able to control their voice and to create unique characters with their personality and all that kind of stuff, but they're also actors at the end of the day. The way they carry themselves, they can get into and shift into a moment and understand how to tell a story. So that is a very powerful thing at character creation, to know I'm about to play in front of a lot of people. I want to make a cool character with a lot of cool stuff in my backstory, and working with Matt Mercer, who also is about to set up an entire world for a huge amount of people. Let me say it like this. Let's say me and you were going to play Dungeons and Dragons, get our friends together, come over, we're going to have a game, we're going to kind of talk about what we do. You're about to create a character, I'm about to create a world, and we're like ready to go. It's super chill, it's super fun. We do our thing, right? We'll take it at whatever level of serious that we take it and whatever level of time we have in our real lives to commit to it, because we all have jobs and other things going on. See, I'm going to get to that in a second. But if this was our job, if part of our job was to play this game and do it in a great way, you're going to put so much more into that character. You just are, because you even also have time to put more into that character. I have more time to build out and flesh out the world and even kind of weave your character together into that world and make it even cooler, because it's also part of our job, which brings me to the next point. These people are getting paid to do this, and they should be, by all means. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. If this is, I am so happy for them and what they've done. It's impressive. It's motivating. It's inspiring. I give massive props to them for being as successful as they are in this D&D space, and they have been a huge catalyst to grow this hobby to the level it's at. So hats off to them. They deserve it, but by all means. But that doesn't change the fact that you're going to bring more to the table. You're going to be on point better whenever you are getting paid to do this at the end of the day. You are making money from this. Imagine at our home game table that I hypothetically talked about. Imagine if you as the dungeon master were to pay your players $100, even $20 every session, and they made $20 a session. That would change the dynamic and fix a lot of issues. Oh, here we go. We're playing. All right, cool. There'd be a lot more focus at the table to be able to keep your attention on what's going on in combat after you go, and you're not going to have to stop in front of lots of people. Do you see how all these things kind of fit together? You are playing in front of a lot of people and you're making money for it, so you're just going to act right as far as social contract stuff goes. You're not going to be a jerk to your fellow players. You're not going to be distracted and just send text messages or go different places and just be distracting, unless you do it for a bit and you have a giant water can that you drink out of all the time. But we'll get into those moments too, because I think that's also part of the wonder of Critical Role. Does this mean the players don't screw around and have fun at the table? No. I hope that part of it, they understand that they should show some realness, and they do, and they do a great job of finding this balance of being professionals and playing a game table and having it feel relatable, because it does. And they screw around the table, they make little jokes, and they'll be texting each other in group messages or throwing stuff at each other, and then Sam and all his shenanigans. But like sometimes I've talked about in my breakdowns, there's been 2 different times so far that there has been over 1 hour massive role play sessions, and there's, you know, times where there's no combat, or times where just one NPC is talking to one player for all like an hour, and that normally would be a very bad thing at the table. That was one of the times I talked about this Critical Role player effect, because normally you shouldn't do that one-on-one dialogue, but in Critical Role you can get away with that because the players are professionals at the end of the day, and they're going to listen. They're also not going to be complete jerks to each other because they are in front of a lot of people, but I also think it's because they are a tight-knit group of friends. I think that helps a whole lot on a lot of different ways as far as them being a group and being together. I think them being friends beforehand and not being like, let's assemble a team of professional voice actors, like they just so happen to be friends. So it really is a perfect storm of things happening here too. And another thing here that getting paid for and being in front of people and this being a show is they show up. Now, yes, I know Ashley Johnson was missing for a whole bunch of different sections there because she was also doing other acting stuff like I talked about with Blind Spot and stuff. But in general, especially this season, they're going to show up, especially if it is partially your job. I know they all do other things and they have their, you know, a bunch of different things going on, but this is partially their job and they're going to show up more often for it. And just the consistency is going to be nice for everyone involved, because at the end of the day, the big overarching statement is they are putting on a show. And I don't mean this in a bad way. In fact, I'll go ahead and say my hot take right now. There's a lot of people out there that say Critical Role is fake or rigged, or it's all just a show and everything's kind of pre-written and all that kind of stuff. You can't do that with Dungeons and Dragons. You can't do that with the dice roll and the reactions. It would be a lot more harder of a task for these actors. Yes, I know they are actors. It'd be a lot more difficult for them to genuinely act surprised and be emotional from the dice and all this different type of stuff. That would be so stressful to do. So they play a 100% real game, and they have a very professional stage that they do it on. So it is a show. It is a production. Their stage, their set, their tables, the miniatures, all that Dwarven Forge stuff that they have. They have the best quality of stuff, the cameras and the mics and the sound quality and then the lighting and all these different things. They have production quality stuff that takes their home game and elevates it to a level that no one's seen before. And I guarantee you that all of our home games would be elevated if they had all those things putting in there, and if we were playing in front of millions of people, and if we were making money from this thing. All of our game tables would be in the most polished off form that it is, but Critical Role is a home game table. I think they have done a great job of balancing this act of how to even do all this. I can only imagine what it would be like to be a player, much less a dungeon master, in this setting, to play in front of people that are going to be talking about the moves you made or the things you said online on Twitter or whatever else afterwards. There's going to be so many eyes on you. The pressure, the heart, I just got a knot in my throat thinking about it, because I know myself. And if I was to ever be a player on Critical Role, if I was to ever have that opportunity or have all these different things going on, I would be absolutely insane. And I'm kind of saying this maybe in a bad way. I would memorize all of my stuff I would have spend an hour before the show aired to get all my stuff right, make sure I knew all of my abilities. I'd have color-coded dice for different sort of abilities I had. I'd memorize my modifiers for attack and things that happen more frequently. I would be nuts. I would never go to the bathroom. I'd focus on absolutely everything, and I'd probably pass out after the whole thing was done. And again, that's not really a good thing, because you see Critical Role players all the time. They stop and go to the bathroom. They'll go to the bathroom mid-combat sometimes. They will forget abilities and forget how the rules work and forget some of their spells and what their characters can do. And that makes it more real. I also see a lot of times that people say that's unprofessional, and if you're doing this, then well, you should have it be a certain way. But I think, again, that messes with the balance, because if things were super structured and rigid, then it wouldn't really feel like a home game. It would feel more abstract and further away from. And this Critical Role effect would be even more amplified if every person always memorized all of their stuff perfectly. So I'm saying Matt Mercer and his crew play a home game just like me and you, but taking into consideration everything that I've gone over in this video, it would be the most polished off version of what your home game is right now. I'm out. I had to call a timeout on myself to calm myself down here. But basically what I'm trying to say is our home game tables would be elevated in the same way if we were to have all of these things that I've been talking about in this video. And the Matt Mercer effect of comparing Dungeon Masters to if you did the same thing to players, the same results would happen. If we were to take normal Dungeon Masters that aren't Matt Mercer and elevate it in this way and have players that are super engaged, this is maybe a motivational statement for players. If you want your Dungeon Master to be more like Matt Mercer, then maybe you could also step up your player game and focus on everything that's going on. Be nice to the players at the table. Give your Dungeon Master a backstory. Engage with their story like you would if you were getting paid to do this and there are other people watching. Because at the end of the day, if everybody shows up to the table to have fun and come together and truly engage, a lot of the things I'm talking about is people watching and I'm getting money for it, you're going to engage. Or you could just have fun at your game table and engage with the people around you that you come together to play this game with. Whew, they got a little sappy there at the end. Didn't expect that. But I hope this rant has made sense in some way. It is a weird gray area to talk about, but that's what I love to talk about on these DC breakdown type things. I'm going to be doing more of these on things other than Critical Role as well. I love reading all those comments because that's honestly where this video came from, is you guys asking to hear more about this Critical Role player effect, because I've mentioned it in a few videos. And real quick, I just want to say a big thank you to all my patrons. Thank you guys so much for supporting what I do here. This has, since the beginning, been the reason why I'm able to do all of these things and make these fun little bonus videos before I go out from the holidays. So a big happy holidays to everybody, and I can't wait for some of the stuff that's coming down in 2022. That's gonna be a crazy year. So until next time, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.